A. To observe the action of zinc, iron, copper and aluminium metals on the following salt solutions. 1. Zinc sulfate solution, ZnSO4 aqueous. 2. Ferrous sulfate solution, FeSO4 aqueous. 3. Copper sulfate solution, CuSO4 aqueous. 4. Aluminium sulfate solution, Al2SO4 aqueous. B. Arrange zinc, iron, copper and aluminium metals in the decreasing order of reactivity based on above results. Apparatus required. 4 sets of test tube rack with clean test tubes. 400 cc beakers. Chemicals required. Small pieces of clean or rubbed copper, iron, zinc and aluminium in the form of wires, turnings and powder. Saturated aqueous solution of copper sulfate, CuSO4 aqueous. Saturated aqueous solution of ferrous sulfate, FeSO4 aqueous. Saturated aqueous solution of zinc sulfate, ZnSO4 aqueous. Saturated aqueous solution of aluminium sulfate, Al2SO4 aqueous. Procedure. Take 400 cc beakers and label them copper sulfate solution, ferrous sulfate solution, zinc sulfate solution and aluminium sulfate solution respectively with a marker pen. Collect about 20 cc of saturated solutions of copper sulfate, ferrous sulfate, zinc sulfate and aluminium sulfate in the respective beakers marked above from the common shelf. Set 1. Take 4 test tubes and label them A, B, C and D. In each test tube, pour about 5 cc of copper sulfate solution. 1. In the test tube A, introduce a small piece of copper rubbed by sandpaper. 2. In the test tube B, introduce a small piece of iron rubbed by sandpaper. 3. In the test tube C, introduce a small piece of zinc rubbed by sandpaper. 4. In the test tube D, introduce a small piece of aluminium rubbed by sandpaper. Wait for 5 minutes and then pour off copper sulfate solution from each test tube into the beaker. Observe the color of metals in each test tube. Observations. 1. In case of copper metal, no change in color takes place. 2. In case of iron metal, a reddish deposit of copper is formed on its surface. 3. In case of zinc metal, a reddish deposit of copper is formed on its surface. 4. In case of aluminium metal, a reddish deposit of copper is formed on its surface. Conclusions. 1. Copper is the least reactive metal. 2. Iron, zinc and aluminium are more reactive than copper. Set 2. Wash the test tubes A, B, C and D with water. Pour 5 cc of ferrous sulfate solution in each of the test tube. 1. In the test tube A, introduce a small piece of copper rubbed by sandpaper. 2. In the test tube B, introduce a small piece of iron rubbed by sandpaper. 3. In the test tube C, introduce a small piece of zinc rubbed by sandpaper. 4. In the test tube D, introduce a small piece of aluminium rubbed by sandpaper. Wait for 5 minutes and then pour a ferrous sulfate solution from each test tube into the beaker. Observe the color of metals placed in each of the test tube. Observations. 1. In case of copper metal, no change in color takes place. 2. In case of iron metal, no change in color takes place. 3. In case of zinc metal, a grey deposit of iron is formed on its surface. 4. In case of aluminium metal, a grey deposit of iron is formed on its surface. Conclusions. 1. Copper metal is the least reactive. It is already proved in set 1. 2. Iron metal is less reactive than zinc and aluminium.